Like me, you were probably surprised that our bed was finished. I don't recall ever telling the shade to go finish the bed, yet there it be, completely finished. That's strange. I'm gonna go back and look and see, was it like that yesterday at some point? Well, we now have a finished bed, so I think after our little trip of adventure, if there's time, when we come back home, we'll go test out that bed. But till then, it's time to explore. So, with having seen 3 different endings so far, the only other natural ending was when you finished the longing, the 400 days. The developer later added another ending and added a little bit more content to the game. So we haven't really explored that content. And I think today we shall get started. I think it's important to make that distinction that some of the things we're going to be doing, they weren't there in the original game, but they were added later. So when we craft theories and such and lore, it's interesting to see content that was cut from the original part of the game, but had a use later on. This room. It's a great room. And we haven't made use of it. We've walked through here several times with the Matic in hand, and we didn't use a Matic. And that's because I knew what was in store once we did. Let's see, where will be a good spot? Probably here. The treasure is behind a nearly impenetrable window of crystal glass. Not that I can make much use of it anyway. Well, we do have a purpose now for it. The face had additional questions. The additional questions were an addition. That wasn't intended. Something the developer added later to have additional questions that we can ask the face. I could try to break the glass with my Matic. It certainly seems like a bad idea. Nope, try anyway. Well, that was a complete failure. Not entirely. If you look where we struck, there's a tiny little dent. So if we use the Matic again, and I do hope that worked. I may have run across the bug. I do hope we haven't run into the bug. Oh, I've cracked the glass. It's only a matter of time before it breaks completely. We've done it. Okay. I was frightened quite a bit when my best friend first played the game. When she cracked the glass, the little crack, instead of being here at this level, it was up here at a very high location. And after using the second Matic, I think it created a second hole, second dent, and it just did not work. So there was nothing that could have been done. So I don't recall that we had to wait for it to break open. does need to wait. Typical of the game. But it took 3 Matics to make that crack. And that's why when I had the first Matic, didn't wish to use it. Or the second one. And why we waited until finally at long last we have 3. And that's because at the time we were still digging in our home and didn't want to interrupt the home digging. Also, the game does make sure that if you've broken one Matic, it's not going to let you break the second one. And that's because the 2 areas where you can find the first 2 Matics, one is the mines, where you would have to just wait on that ledge, which will eventually break and give us access down below, where we can reach the Matic. The second one is in that area with the crystals and the waterfall. And you just have to wait a couple of weeks for the moss to grow to allow us access down there. So other than those 2, the third one we got near the surface. And in order to reach that surface, we had to grow some mushrooms. But to reach that area where the mushrooms are, it was behind a wall that we had to dig. So if you had broken one Matic, it's fine. There are a lot of people on a lot of forums who just after receiving their first Matic wander around and they're like, ooh, yay, I have a Matic. There are so many things I want to do with it. And one of those first things is, let me get some treasure. And they use it and it breaks. And just the feeling of frustration of all the things you can finally get to do now taken away from you. Ah, I know that feeling well. So what the game does, if you gain the second Matic and try to use it there, the shade says something to the effect of, what do you want me to do? Use my nose? It kind of disregards the fact that you have another Matic in your inventory. And that's just to prevent you from breaking it. Until at last, you get near the surface and you discover the third one. And with the third Matic, now we can use them. I like the interaction there with it. Especially the opportunity to gain the Matic and then lose it. It's great for gameplay, that feeling of frustration for the players, like, yes, I got it! No, it's gone. It's a good emotion. We'll talk to the face here in a moment. But this will complete our collection of crystals, so let's get started on that. Actually, we'll probably want to discuss some of the things the face has to say, so let's pause that. Hi, face. How are you? I am well, thank you. How are you? So this box here, I have more questions. This is part of the additions to the game. But what happened if I leave the cave? I demand an offering in return. 100 coal. It seems silly to ask, since we've explored for ourselves what will happen, but let's hear what the face has to say. If you set foot outside, the kingdom will crumble and be forgotten forever. There won't be a way back, but this is the tragedy of being. Each triumph may be a veiled defeat, and for each defeat, there is a hidden triumph lingering in the dark. So we know when we cross the well, everything shakes, crumbles, and it's forgotten forever. So our theory of the shade perhaps forgetting everything, well, the theory that the old man is a shade, perhaps he constructed that grave just with the little bits that he remembered about the place. And the grave is there as like a reminder that deep beneath the earth is this sad, forgotten soul. Interesting. you might remember in our pictures, the image of a crown of the king is titled Soul. We can create many of the crowns. On one of my playthroughs, I did just that. I've created every crown possible. They're all titled Soul. It really does reflect with what that grave is saying, a forgotten soul, the king. But also the thought that it's forgotten forever, even for the shade. The other thought, something I had thought about but didn't mention when it came to, let me go smack this thing while we explain. The theory that the old man, the blind man, is another shade, is that once we had met him, we were being scrubbed. Just relentlessly, we were being scrubbed by that frog woman. For what purpose? And then we revealed that there was skin underneath. Who would know to scrub the shade's face until there was skin underneath? Then perhaps somebody who has already experienced it themselves. Who knows from their own experience that underneath there is a boy or a shade, a person, and you're not just this thing of coal, unless you've experienced that for yourself. And when we met that man, looking at the pictures on the wall, there was the image that looked like a shade, and then the version that we see now, where he doesn't look like a shade. So anyway, that's that part of the theory. But the next part of what the face just told us, that for each victory is a hidden defeat, for each defeat is a hidden victory. We got out, and that's great. And that was a victory for us, but the defeat was for the king, as we saw when you looked at the 3 panels, that the 3rd panel showed that the king, his face had fallen off. He had fallen apart. He had just become, I guess, normal stone and broken like much of the kingdom itself. But the opposite. For a defeat, there is a hidden victory. That's curious. I'm going to read it again. This is the tragedy of being. Each triumph may be a veiled defeat, and for each defeat, there is a hidden triumph. That's interesting that for the triumph, there may be a veiled defeat, but for each defeat, there is a hidden triumph. One is may, the other is definite. It's kind of, you have your choice of ending, and there's victory to be had, but there's also a defeat. There's a path that you can no longer choose. But for each path you don't choose, there is the victory to be had for the one you did select. A hidden triumph, perhaps, lingering in the dark. So if you reach a dead end, it's kind of encouraging. Is there a way to manipulate time? I demand an offering in return. We have exactly 7 disappointments. Have them. Time is relentless. But down, in your innermost cave, your mind rules above all, even over time, over reality and dream. Yet, under a blue light, things may appear reversed, though strangely familiar, like a well-known book, which ends on its first page. So we can't quite explore that yet. In order to create a blue light, a blue fire, we need more lapis. We have just one piece of lapis currently, and later on we'll have 5 lapis that we can use to burn. So it doesn't make sense now, but it will soon. Can you tell me a secret? I demand an offering in return. 3 golden coins. Well, we don't have the golden coins yet. I think what we'll do is we'll finish picking this crystal out of the wall, and then we'll walk back by the treasure room, see if it's opened up any, see if there's any coins we can gain through it. If not, maybe we'll head back home. It's not far away, and we'll play some music, advance time a good bit. We'll advance time maybe till the next day. We'll come back up and see if that's changed anything there. On my first playthrough, I was very worried about things I did that could perhaps have some impact on the ending. And it's fun. The things that the king told you to do, the worries that the shade has about picking a crystal off the wall or taking a piece of gold. And I made the decision for myself not to do those things. It turns out the game's ending are not dictated by those things. And those are just things for you to overcome for yourself. So for my second playthrough, to dare to do those things, it was fun. It was quite liberating to, smash this wall with thematic. And as I mentioned, my best friend, when she played, she wasn't able to do so. So it was kind of locked to both of us. I wasn't willing to, and even though she wanted to, the game had a bug that didn't allow her to. So it took my second playthrough for us to actually learn what was said about a secret. And we'll soon get there. You might think, well, if those were additional content, these 3 new things that we can ask, one of them we already know about, it's already about one of the endings. I think that one was added for players who want to know more before they make that decision, and perhaps in hindsight, the developer found that there wasn't enough info. Even there was clues and such about the light, about how we can leave. It doesn't answer what would happen if we do leave. And there's just questions there. Perhaps the developer noticed a lot of people hesitated to leave even though they had the option to. And so for the face to give us some information, or perhaps it's useful for people who have seen the ending and it fills in a little bit of knowledge there. The original ending, as we mentioned before, once you enter that final room, the screen pans up. It used to pan up all the way to the top of the house where there was a stork there. And the stork shakes its head like in a no, shakes its head no, disapprovingly. And then I think he said it flies off. But that bit of content was cut. But having seen that, what does that mean? I think that explanation works. For each victory, there's a hidden defeat. So it seemed like a success, but they wanted to seed that little bit of doubt. and thinking about the king, showing that image of the king, we see that there was a defeat there. We could think the defeat of choosing not to pick that ending. There was still a success. Well, we did find bits of wood. We were able to make a bed out of it. I don't think that's what it means, though. There's a little comic someone had drawn where there's the shade standing on this side saying, "Oh, hello, face." And then you see the shade standing on this side looking the other way saying, "Hello, how are you?" Kind of the shade just playing a game with himself, talking to himself, imagining, like playing pretend. "Hi, face," and then playing pretend that he is the voice. Because we never see the face move. Like our spider friend. Our spider friend moves. The king moves. We saw him move when he first created us. He opened his hand. So, right, the 3 additions, the first one being something we already know about. The second one about time. We can control time in the place that's innermost to us. If the world represents inside yourself, the place where you feel at home within yourself. Crystal broke off. We've done it. That's the last crystal. I just realized something. No, it should be fine. I wanted to make a time lapse of all 5 crystals, seeing how they break in relation to each other. Because we interrupted, I think it's fine. I'll just edit out the piece where I interrupted the picking at it and then resuming it. So what we learned about the lapis and being able to manipulate time in our own home. In some ways, we already knew some of that stuff about time moving faster by having a comfortable home. I guess it's more clear to others. There are people in the forums who do ask that question. And I think it's necessary when you're making a game. You want the game to be timeless in its own way. You as the developer are not always going to be around to answer your fans' questions or people who feel like the game didn't give them enough information. So to include it, it's useful. That if you weren't aware that time was actually shifting in some way, to know that it's intentional, that time moves faster at home. But it gives us a hint that we could perhaps turn back time as well. This is the wrong direction. Let's go to the other door. Well, do we want to? No, that's not the one we want. We want to walk past the treasure room again. Also, the way I'm moving is a new addition to the game with the Switch using a controller. The game was first created for PC or the Mac, and you would move with this cursor. I've cracked the glass. Yeah, let's advance time 12 hours. So, it's gonna go the long way around. For some reason, the shade doesn't like to automatically take the path where you climb. The first time I played the game, I used this menu a lot. And it has pictures of places we've been, places that were meaningful, and just letting the shade remember how to get there, rather than having to map it out ourselves. It's fun that our memory of the place is as it was when we remembered it. You can see there the stalactite still up on the roof. Here the pit isn't filled with water. Disappointments. This is something I wanted to mention, especially since we were trying to break into the treasure hoard. So, there are 2 more disappointments in the game. One of them, nobody has ever reached. So, it's known how to reach it, and that's to gain 1 million gold coins. Once we're able to get gold coins, you'll understand the process there. There is on the forums people who have collected many gold coins. I think the record that somebody had hit was 100,000, which is an insane number. There's a picture I found where in somebody's home there's piles and piles of gold. The developer has shared that it's only limited to 5 piles, I believe. It's 5 or 10. Let's make some music. I'm playing this song because it speeds up time. It speeds up time by 10 minutes each time we play it. So I'm going to repeat this a little bit to advance time to the next day. We could just have a session where we just grind out multiple days on one stream. the 12-hour symphony. Well done, little shade. I suppose now I'll have to change the title of the stream, because we've gone a day further than intended. That's fine. So, with the gold, the developer, I pondered that, was this a truth? That it was said, if you were to reach 1 million gold coins, that you would gain a disappointment for it. And I was like, wait a minute, how do we know this though? Because the only person who has posted about it has only reached 100,000. Have they done more? We just haven't heard about it? So it turns out that on a Discord, the developer had joined that Discord and shared some information. They had a FAQ and things that they've shared together, things we've already shared on the channel together. But they showed a bit of code that at 1 million coins, you get a disappointment. So it's known, but I don't think anyone has ever done it. There wouldn't be anything to do with that disappointment. It's just an alternative for in case you were unable to get the others. I guess even if we were to use another Matic, it wouldn't help enough. We just have to let time do its thing. Let the pressure of the treasure itself, it will eventually burst out. We could go back home, play more music, or try out our bed. But instead, for a date and adventure, there are some other pictures I want to draw. So let's go ahead and take a trip to the Hall of Eternity. See if we can get more paper. Actually, let's take a look here first. Okay, so the reason why I came in here, if you see up here, this little brick, it's slightly out of place. I just wanted to have a look at it. Oh, well look here. A book. One day these pages will crumble to dust. I hope I get the chance to read them first. Another book. I will be the first and only one to ever lay my eyes upon these pages. We've just found 2 free books. Books that weren't there before. It's one of the hidden time-gated mechanics that certain places change over time. It's been over 100 days for the shade. Oh look, a piece of wood. We no longer need pieces of wood. I think that's one that exists at the very beginning of the game. I just neglected it. There are only 11 pieces of wood, from what I recall. There were some in the mines, some down by the waterfall, and then the last couple of pieces are up there near the surface. The community had always wondered if there would be another update, like the one that was added, which added more dialogue options with the face, which added a different ending. But it's been a couple of years since that update had happened. We're pretty sure this is where the game sits now. The endless caverns are calling me. Not to worry, that's where we're headed. I don't know if the shade will repeat them, but after 100 days, there are some unique things the shade has to say. We had played a bit off-stream, and that was just to pass time, so that way it would be daytime up near the surface. And while we were doing so, the shade had a few things to say. Mainly his boredom that these were the same old caves as they had been 100 days ago. The shade was very talkative for that short little session that I had. Must be more to life than just waiting for things to happen. Okay, so he is going to repeat some of them. That's good to know. And I like that. It's like, don't just sit and wait for these coins to break what we had started. We kind of set nature on a new course, and we have to wait for that. But don't just wait for nature. In strange ways, this game kind of has little lessons to think about how to overcome your own loneliness. The developer had shared that this was something that they had to conquer themselves as well, where they were a quiet person who didn't spend a lot of time with others and such. And day by day, some of these endings, they felt like some days they would choose one ending of the game, some days they would pick others. And they were just sort of metaphors for how to deal with your own loneliness. I'm somewhat disappointed that we didn't get to finish building the bed ourselves, that it just happened for us. I like the idea of having it as something that we worked on, like a project, the day to day, until we finished it. And that's just because of the things to do in our home. We've almost exhausted them all. We've finished digging out the little caverns that we can create. We've used up almost all of our paper. And I thought the bed would be a good one. That would give us at least a couple of days of something to work on. And just to see that progression happening. Oh, and there it is. This is the last unique decor that we can find for our little home. A curtain matches the color of my armchair perfectly. Maybe that's what the shade felt was calling him. Looking at photos that people have taken of their shade's home, how it looks for them, there are a few pieces that are the same for everyone. Two of those being the curtain and the horse. A lot of people just like the position that they are in from the very beginning. Some things like the chair and the bookshelf and the table, those can't be moved. The horse head can, but nobody seems to want to. I think we'll hang out here for the rest of the stream and grab as much paper as we can, and then we'll send the Sage home on his own. I wonder if we can take a bookmark of our shade in his bed. Its bed. And that way we can send him home to bed. There's another clever one that I've seen on the forums, is a picture of the map. When you go to that map room and you decipher it, how everything begins to expand. You can, while it's expanded, use that as a bookmark. And then when you open up the screen, you would have a smaller version of the full map. Here's a question. Could you open this menu when you're on the surface? I don't think so, but why not find out? What would happen if you told the shade to go home while you were on the surface? I have a save game up there. We can certainly try that. We'll do that at the very end, after the shade has gone as far as we're going to go for today. After we've set him to walk home, I'll switch over to that profile and we'll see if we can do anything with that. I think it just doesn't open. Paper, hello. White paper in Halls of Eternity. I think they found the best place to play hide and seek. steel. Wonder where it came from. Perhaps from the ceiling. Just like those 2 books we found today. Nice. This piece didn't take very far for us to go. Wonder if the next one is very short as well. I'm willing to grab at least one more. Oh, that was fast. Another. I think if I were walking through these halls, I would start to slap my feet in different ways. This one's much further than the others. Alright, one last paper. Nice. Head to home. I just wanted to share the symbol for going back. It's the picture of Sol, the king. Right, let's switch over to the other profile. And I'm pressing the same button to open that menu. You can see it's interrupting the shade from walking when I press it. Oh, it is open. So the shade's walking. I press the button, it's open. It's just not shown, and there's nothing for us to click on. But it is preventing the shade from walking. Oh, that's interesting as well. I can't click to move. There it goes. Why don't you work? Ah, I see. It lights up to places where you can only go. Then why does it light up there? I don't use this little way of walking. As we know, if you try to climb, the shade doesn't want to. So I was just poking around, see what I could accomplish. Well, the menu is intentionally not here. Perhaps that reflects that the shade would forget all about the king and all the places we had been and traveled and remembered. They're all forgotten. It's gone.